Ahoy, mateys, and welcome to another episode of I'm Ready, a SpongeBob SquareCast. My name is Captain Eric, and we are continuing our sail through the second season of SpongeBob SquarePants. Today's episode is Shanghaied, which at the time of release was under the special named You Wish, an event in which you, the viewer, could call in during the episode and vote to see which character by the end of the episode would receive the final wish from the Flying Dutchman. It was a massive event on Nickelodeon, one of SpongeBob's biggest, one of his big first ones that he's had. And I couldn't do this episode alone because we're dealing with an episode that has multiple endings, multiple choice, and I had to bring on multiple people. So, from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie Rehydrated project, I brought on Skylar and Brandon of Truman Pictures once again to join me on this extra special episode. So we're not going to waste a lot of time. We're actually going to jump right into the episode. But if you would like to follow Truman Pictures or any of their social media or any of the social media regarding the SpongeBob SquarePants movie Rehydrated project, which is premiering this year, then you can look into the podcast description, the video description. All of the links that you will need are right in the description below. So we're going to take a quick break before we hop right into the episode of Shanghaied with Skylar and Brandon.
Big one! Take us behind those rocks.
Moving behind the rocks.
Keep going. You're good. You're good. You're good. And stop. Don't worry, Captain. We'll buff out those scratches.
Magic Conj, will I ever get to meet Tom Kenny?
Maybe someday.
Oh, so you're saying there's a chance. Okay. Should I tell fans of the show how they can support us?
Yes.
Goofy Goobers, supporting the show is shockingly easier than catching a blue jellyfish. Right from our anchor page, anchor.fm/SpongePod, you can find links to all of our social media and a support button if you happen to have a few extra clams. Also follow us on twitch.tv/SpongeBobPodcast, where it's not only the official home to our sister show, Video Bob Game Pants, it's also where I stream live drawings of various Nickelodeon characters and host the opportunity for commissions and giveaways. Lastly, the official merchandise store is now open at redbubble.com/people/SpongePod, where various designs will be uploaded inspired by our show, including our official logo, which is now available on a multitude of products like t-shirts, stickers, duvet covers, and even a shower curtain. This is a podcast by a fan, for fans, and will always be fan-driven. Any way you see fit on supporting our show is much appreciated. Thank you, and enjoy. So with Shanghaied coming up next on the show, it is an episode that it's a bit bigger than you would think because on its own, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But when it first aired on television, Shanghaied was actually a part of a bigger event on SpongeBob, Nickelodeon television known as You Wish. There was a big promotion around it. Nickelodeon ran commercials for weeks ahead of the episode's premiere, with the gimmick being that the viewers would get to call in and vote on, the end of the episode, which character would get a wish. And surrounding this episode, there was a lot of Patchy the Pirate, who we've already been introduced to this season, but this was just another big Patchy moment on television. There was a legitimate phone number that you could call and cast your vote as to which character would get the final vote of the episode. Since that first airing, though, a lot of that footage has just not only disappeared, but also the extra votes of those characters. The winning vote was told to just become the canonical ending and then would be on future airings of what is now known as Shanghaied. So doing this episode was not just enough to have myself and all of these multiple choice endings. I had to bring on multiple people, and they picked this episode themselves. I welcome back to the show a part of the SpongeBob SquarePants movie Rehydrated project, Skylar and Brandon. Thank you, guys.
Hello, thank you, Captain Eric. Hello.
Oh man,
Thanks for
that was a
having us,
mouthful.
man.
Absolutely, you guys are fun. I love that you picked. Like, I knew the second you guys picked this episode a year ago, I was like, oh, they picked a good one to come back on.
I do. We had a few options. I remember one of the first options we had was Survival of the Idiots, and I really almost picked that one because nothing is more quoted between me and my sister than Who You Call Him Pinhead. And then and one of the things I also quote a lot, anytime I say maybe, I go, maybe it's her fur. And the little squirrel I've done that so much my girlfriend has started saying that. She does the maybe it's her fur.
SpongeBob quotes are contagious. That's why SpongeBob is the greatest internet meme giver there is.
Definitely.
Well, so when I rewatched Shanghaied right now, I started losing it because Brandon and I in high school there's one line we quoted a ton, but one line I quote so much I totally forgot it was in this episode is Patrick's it seems we've reached an impasse. anytime we have decisions to make and we can't we can't come to the right conclusion, whether it's what to have for dinner or what movie to watch, I'll say that to myself. I'll be like, it seems we've reached an impasse.
Yeah, there's so much of my lingo that has come from SpongeBob, and some of it I feel has happened unconsciously. I am not aware that this just has become a thing I say.
Yeah. And it makes for funnier moments when I rewatch the show. When I rewatch Shanghai right now, I could not stop laughing when Patrick said that. And it's not like it's the funniest line in the show. It just was I totally didn't realize
It was from that episode.
Yeah, so it just caught me off guard, and I lost it. It was so funny. But yeah,
this show is absolutely hilarious. It's one of it's just another home run out of season 2. I mean, going through back again, it's not that hard. It's literally the easiest thing in the world to go, all right, I'm watching an episode of SpongeBob, and it's season 2, because every episode is just a hit.
Yeah, I truly believe that SpongeBob leading up to that first movie, it just is a perfect TV show. From the TV show into the movie, it is so perfect. And again, that's not to say that the later shows are bad. There are some really great classic moments in those later episodes, and even big meme moments. The mocking SpongeBob meme, and handsome Squidward is one of the funniest. But you're right. It is just hit after hit after hit in
nonstop.
The first few seasons. It's perfect.
Yeah, the quality is at an all-time high, and this episode was just no different. Just the patchy stuff in the edited episode. Now, I think in its first week of Paramount Plus, or I don't know if they're talking about when it was called CBS All Access, but at some point of that streaming service, they had pretty much all of the patchy segments intact. They had the full thing pretty much uncut. This was a longer episode, even on its own, running a bit longer.
Wow.
But they've now butchered all of those segments down to, it's not really a funny intro to Shanghai.
Yeah, it's super weird.
The patchy stuff throughout the episode is more of a nuisance than anything else, because it's just been so heavily edited for television.
I will say, I was telling Brandon though that one of the funniest bits for me is when it cuts back to Patchy at the end, and he has this great line out of nowhere. Maybe it made more sense in context of the rest of the clips, but when he's like, "Are you boys and girls ready? Because you're gonna walk the plank," and then he's gets all mad, and then
he just cracks. At that
and then
moment.
it just cuts to the we'll be right back, or
the real pirate in him just comes out at that moment in time. He's no longer a children's television show host.
I would say really that you're right. That opening Patchy stuff would almost put me off to the episode.
Yeah, they really should have just cut that out.
Yeah.
They should have just kept the episode as is, because I don't know, it's in rewatching it, it's embarrassing, and knowing that, especially watching it on Paramount Plus, guys, can I just watch this uncut, please? I can, I can fast forward if I want to.
Yeah.
But we get this whole intro here with SpongeBob looking for a prize inside of the Kelpo box. which, by the way, apparently doesn't come with a prize.
Oh.
Which, unless Gary just took it before, I have no idea.
Just looking for nothing.
I love the whole gag of the baby. The Sky had a baby. Was so funny. Like he's like, Squidward, the Sky had a baby. It's an anchor, and then Patrick's like, whoa, the Sky had a baby. Like just the way that SpongeBob and Patrick are like in tune. That's like some of the funniest stuff. And the whole show is just when like they both have the same ridiculous conclusion. That always like cracks me up. It reminds me of me and you. It reminds me of me and you, Brandon.
It's easily the funniest thing that SpongeBob probably has ever ran over to Squidward's house yelling.
I know, yeah. Like what
So
was
sold by
Yeah, like why did he need?
Squidward's like the go-to. We gotta tell Squidward.
Yeah, like has that ever worked out for SpongeBob? Like going to tell Squidward something? Like
No, that's the funny part. That's why, like, if I was ever asked, or if I was ever in a place where I was, I could write for SpongeBob SquarePants, like the things I would pitch initially would be episodes where they don't leave those three houses, like everything just happens around Squidward's house, like it's just there to annoy Squidward.
I mean that's truly some of the best SpongeBob setups are him, like his relationship with Squidward.
Jellyfish jam.
Yeah. The employee of the month is.
Yeah.
I love that one. Even though as a kid I do remember being really frustrated with the way that they like kept getting in each other's way. I was like, oh my god, just stop. But yeah, and like Shanghaied is no different, where it opens with like bothering Squidward, and then Squidward having to like make a point. Like, his downfall is just he needs to prove SpongeBob.
Yeah, he has to be on top of every situation. Like even when SpongeBob is an expert. Yeah, I think the only time Squidward leaves him alone is at the grill.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It's like
he's smart enough to know, like, I'm not good at that job. You handle it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so it's like so funny to me just that when you trap Squidward with SpongeBob and Patrick, it always becomes like it's comedy gold. Like I when they're trapped in the well, and then he's like, you know, when Squidward says he's claustrophobic, and he's like, oh, that means he's afraid of Santa Claus, and then Patrick's like, ho ho ho, and SpongeBob's like, stop, you're scaring him. Like, it's like when you trap him with those two, it's the perfect like combination of like
Conch shell.
Oh, the conch shell, the magic conch, yeah, of course.
The imaginary box.
Look, it's the thing. Like the
the
Three
box,
Stooges.
yeah, the idiot box.
No matter what situation you put the Three Stooges in, whether or not they're painters or they're electricians or they're plumbers, the funny stuff's always going to be the slapstick.
Oh yeah.
Is the slaps, the pokes, the hitting of the head with different large objects that would kill anybody. Like, so the whole thing is, no matter how long SpongeBob is on television and how many different hands are writing it or making it, the classic stuff is always going to work.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what people fell in love with.
Yeah, I would say even like you have like this you mentioned I'm sorry, you mentioned the Three Stooges, and I also think of the Marx Brothers, where it's like when you have the like just these three really strong personalities, like working against everyone else, or where like or like working against each other, like it's just this great combination. And of course Marx Brothers is more like they do slapstick, but they were always more like the cerebral, like dialogue based
Beastie Boys
humor, and it like and it's almost like this great combination of the two SpongeBob, where you have like these incredible slapsticky moments, and then also just sometimes the dialogue is like just killer. I mean, it is so funny.
The three characters here are essentially the Stooges. Patrick is Curly, Squidward is Moe, and SpongeBob is Larry. Like, the archetypes are there. It works.
Yeah.
But in this episode, we get like, I don't know about you guys, I don't know who your favorite is, but out of all of the side characters that appear on this show, Brian Doyle Murray's The Flying Dutchman is probably my favorite.
He's
Oh my God.
so like good, like he's just perfectly it's like Squidward's not one of the funny ones, but he is like the straight man to these three buffoons, you know. And
Patrick's my favorite.
Yeah, I love Patchy, and it like works perfectly because it's like the Flying Dutchman is like being this real. It like SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick just stumble onto his ship, and they're like not part of this world of the Flying Dutchman going around scaring people. Like you never see him do that. You know, like that's not something that's happening to SpongeBob and Patrick and Squidward. Like they're not part of that world. So he's got his own thing going on, and they just like waltz into it. And it, like, and I love that the whole plot of the episode is basically that they're torturing the Dutchman. Like he's he's just miserable.
It really flips the book on him.
It's pretty incredible that every time we've seen the Flying Dutchman, there's not really been a consistency with like what he does or like why he's around Bikini Bottom. It's so bizarre.
What, like who is he?
It's
like
just
what?
like the local neighborhood ghost.
Apparently, if you follow a board game, you'll eventually get to his treasure, and he'll show up. Or here, he'll have an anchor somehow come down and knock your house over. Or
and like
you know, he comes in on Halloween. I don't get it.
Yeah, like what is like, he has like no that would have been an interesting thing to do in one of the movies is use the Flying Dutchman as either a antagonist
Plot
or
point.
something. It's
Even as a joke,
Yeah.
the Flying Dutchman would have been incredibly visually amazing to see in 2 dimensions on the big screen.
It's interesting
Like,
they've never done that in any of the movies.
They better call this
you know,
up for the next one.
oh my God, the SpongeBob movie, you could have easily had a gag where SpongeBob and Patrick, on their way out of Bikini Bottom, see the Flying Dutchman, like, hey, you know, can you help us? Like, yeah, sure, I'm feeling in a good mood today. What do you guys need? We're going to Shell City, and he just drives away.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine his boat like speeding off, and it plays like the tires screeching sound effect. Like,
whoa, I'm not going there.
It's still like you know, flaked off from the.
You could even like have a whole. You could even have expanded the lore there because maybe he's like near the pit of monsters and he's like collecting souls or whatever. You know, like wrecked ships. Maybe there's like a shipwreck scene, and that's where he's like a Davy Jones kind of character. You know,
more Flying Dutchman.
I mean,
now.
speaking of Davy Jones, I just tweeted Rare this evening with their announcement of adding the Pirates of the Caribbean characters into Sea of Thieves. I was like, can we get some Flying Dutchman love? Because he would fit. I don't know. His design could just be tweaked and fit perfectly in the Sea of Thieves, and I'm sure Brian Doyle Murray would love to go ham it up for a video game.
Oh yeah, totally.
He hasn't shied away, and it's kind of sad. I don't know why Clancy Brown just doesn't like doing the video games. I don't know if it's just the pay difference or whatnot, but he seems to never want to voice Mr. Krabs, but Brian Doyle Murray is just like, yeah, I'll come in and do Flying Dutchman.
I wonder if Nickelodeon has a similar contract set up like the Disney movies do with like the first rejection or whatever that's called, where the voice actors, and I don't know how true this is anymore, or if it's only true for the movies or whatever, but where the voice actors in like a movie get the first rejection when their character's going to be in like a TV show or a video game or whatever. Like they'll call them first and say, hey, John Goodman, do you want to play Sully in Kingdom Hearts 3? And then John Goodman gets to say yes or no. And then after that, then they go to the next, like, okay, John Goodman sound alike. Do you want a paycheck today? Like, I wonder if Nickelodeon has a similar setup.
Kudos to the actors out there who never say no to their characters.
Oh, yeah. I love the consistency.
Absolutely. You had mentioned... I wish more people had a Tom Hanks in their life who got to set up. His brother does every Woody appearance outside of the Toy Story movies.
Yeah,
like,
and he sounds.
If you've ever heard Woody in a video game or a TV show or anything else, it's been his brother.
Even the toy with the pull string is Jim Hanks, which
just like him.
Which is super weird because I'm like, why not just pull the sound clips from the movie? Like, they had to have recorded the specific sound clips of, you know, somebody's poisoned the water hole.
Yeah.
Like, why not just use them?
Thinking about pulling sound clips, how about the fact that Nickelodeon the Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 game still is just completely silent and devoid of any characters talking. You'd think having the license, you'd be able to just kind of pull the audio as well.
That's so it's so weird.
It's a weird department.
Yeah, all the different specifics and those kinds of things. I mean, even the little thing I just said of like the first rejection thing that's a weird fact.
Maybe
to me.
like a contractual thing for
that's like
for pay on actors.
Yeah, that's like
Hollywood contracts are crazy.
Oh yeah. Well, and then even in the voice acting world, I remember hearing some fun fact about like if you voice more than 3 characters on a show, then they have to pay you like for another voice actor, like salary or whatever. Completely. Because so it's like you have an incentive to try and get more than 3 voices on a show. So. Wow. Like Tom Kenny is like the narrator.
Because they had SpongeBob. Billy West voicing like every character on Nickelodeon in the early 90s.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it's like, it is this weird thing. But you have he's also Patchy the Pirate, and he's Gary the Snail. And I remember in an interview with him where he's like, I'm Gary the Snail, and that's what put me over the... He was like, that's what got me the bigger paycheck, was because I was Gary the Snail. I don't know. I don't remember where I heard that or if that's even true, but that was just a funny thing.
That's hilarious.
Well, he deserves it. He deserves all the money in the world. I mean, he's such a great guy.
I literally just saw a TikTok of this kid, and he's graduating high school, and he's like, SpongeBob's here. He's at my graduation. He like whips the camera over, and Tom Kenny's like in the lobby of the high school, like chatting it up with some guy, and then it cuts to him like doing a SpongeBob voice to the kid like on the TikTok, and then he like signs his graduation pamphlet like. Congrats,
Voice actors are the sweetest.
Yeah,
man.
they're super
Billy
nice.
West was the nicest man.
Oh yeah.
All of them. Everybody seems like a top notch.
So
they seem to appreciate the fans. God bless them all.
Oh yeah, Brandon and I.
Richard Horvitz.
Brandon and I met Richard Horvitz, and I'm just thinking about him a lot because they just announced the Psychonauts 2 release date, and Brandon and I are losing our minds.
So hyped.
And we met him, and he's super nice. And they've actually been doing live streams of the first Psychonauts game.
I've been watching.
And they've been having guest stars of the people who originally made the game. And Richard Horvitz was on it, and he told some great stories. And they're just super nice people in that whole business.
Phil Lamar.
Oh, Phil Lamar,
legend.
Super nice.
No one in this planet has made me laugh more than Billy West and John DiMaggio when they get in a room together.
Man.
There have been 2 occasions in which I have had to pull my car over to the side of the road because of the laughter being a detraction from driving. Like when Billy West whips out his Larry Fine impression, I can't not laugh. And when John DiMaggio is perfectly playing off of it, they're like, I just want to hang out with those guys. I don't know what it is.
Billy West he's just a dream to talk to. He just naturally talks to anybody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love H. John Benjamin.
Oh yeah.
And Coach McGurk on Home Movies is
what a great father figure.
Oh yeah, he's so funny. One of my favorites is when he's like walking down the driving range to go help Brendan with his golf. And he's like, Coach, what are you doing walking down the middle of the driving range? And he's like, well, I figured the way you were hitting the balls, walking directly in front of you was the safest place to be. And then he immediately gets hit in the head with a golf ball. He's like, ow.
That was my very first Adult Swim show. That's the earliest I can think of when I think of Adult Swim, and that's a show I would absolutely love to see return in some way.
It's so funny, and it's crazy how funny that show is, and that it was mostly all improv.
Yeah.
And even some of my favorite moments on that show is when when H. John Benjamin plays 2 characters that are having a conversation. When another character he's playing talks to Coach McGurk, and it's literally just it's just him. H. John Benjamin talking to himself.
Complete madness.
Oh yeah, it's insane that show even got made. I think because it's so just bizarre.
So part of its time.
Yeah.
I remember waking up in the middle of the night and putting on the TV and watching home movies.
Oh yeah.
Brack Show.
Oh dude, Brack Show.
Space Coast to Coast.
Dude, all classics. I mean, Adult Swim's always been there for the weird.
And I'll say that that Home Movies is one of my favorite box set boxes of all time. It's just such a super cool box. And speaking of Adult Swim, there's a new trend on TikTok where everyone's sort of doing their own version of an Adult Swim bumper.
Bumps, yeah.
Where they're doing the text on screen and then it ends with the Adult Swim logo.
Oh yeah.
And I'm so tempted to do it, but one of my favorite TikToks was this guy coming out and he was like, you guys
Don't
you
get
did it
them.
so fast.
Yeah.
I hate you.
Yeah.
You guys are making like Pixar short films, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do for it.
Yeah.
Like, why did you do like
Blew
stop?
up.
Just stop it. Like, let me catch up. Like, I want to put mine out there too before the trend dies.
Yeah.
You know what? Do your art. If it looks good, it'll find its
Oh
audience.
yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
I wanted to. Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say I wanted to point out something that I loved about this episode. Watching it is and something that I noticed about SpongeBob again, just rewatching this episode because I hadn't really watched SpongeBob in a while, is how the use of like mixed media throughout the episode. Like, and throughout the whole show, they use like mixed media where, you have like the regular animation, and then sometimes you'll do like the hard cut to a super detailed like, oil painting.
Yeah.
That's like really grotesque. And they do that here when, it's SpongeBob and Patrick looking in the Fly of Despair.
Yeah,
Which is
it
one of my
cuts back up to
favorite
them.
images ever. Just
Man, how has that not been on a T-shirt?
Yeah.
Where the Fly of Despair is everything the T-shirt is looking at.
that is the stuff that Squidward like falls by is
terrifying.
horrifying. There's like this weird baby face demon head
It's like
thing.
the Loki drop. But we
I have
see
a
what's
full list of
inside.
everything he has.
Oh my
that
God.
He flew by in the
It
Fly
is
of Despair. A
terrifying.
lavender blue-gilled creature with horns, a giant green snake and a skull, a pink-headed monster with a brain vessel on its
Yeah,
head.
yes,
Oh
yeah,
my
that one.
One-eyed
God.
purple clam, a blue eyeball creature,
Oh, gosh.
gray-headed monster with green mermaid body and bat
I
wings.
remember that one.
Oh my God.
Oh god.
Red and blue lines with yellow balls, red zombie with blue hair and yellow glowing eyes, giant purple eyeball, blue creature with a yellow eye but without a pupil, and
I can't imagine being on the writing team and they're like, guys,
if there was
go come up with this.
ever, and finally, last but not least, if there was ever a little nod that I should probably go forward with my food truck idea, spaghetti and meatballs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The spaghetti meatballs totally threw me off when I was watching it again right now. I was like, what?
Hey, so Squidward spent a total of 7 minutes in the Fly of Despair, which means that, look, according to what happened to Squidward, inevitably you're just gonna just fly
Yeah.
around spaghetti and meatballs and then land in your bed safely.
Yeah, I was like, if I were SpongeBob and Patrick, if you had known, they could have just jumped in the Fly of Despair.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty cool place.
Yeah, it seems like scary, but if
Once you get
nothing's
past the
really
weird
happening
creatures.
to you. Yeah.
I mean, once you know, it's fine. I can understand the fright at first.
Oh yeah.
Terrifying. I don't know, man.
I mean, I can understand the fright until you know you fall asleep safely in your bed.
Oh yeah, and then
I love the cutback to when Patrick's using the binoculars and it's real eyeballs.
oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that. Well, and I was also going to point out in the final shot of the canonical episode ending, when they're running around the now VW van. My dad actually had a VW van, and so I have a soft spot for them. So I love that part. But when they're running around it, and the background is like you said, it was like a lava lamp kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a
branded.
lava
Yeah.
lamp. Very
It's-
70s.
Super. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
psychedelic.
I loved all that like mixed media stuff because Brandon and I are about to start a sort of series on our YouTube channel that uses like mixed media and like cardboard and green screen and puppetry and animation all together to make it's like they're
big smash up.
yeah, just these crazy
Yeah.
mixed media music videos is what they're gonna be.
Excellent.
Like fan-made music videos. And so, in the first one we're doing, not to give too much away, but we were trying to get it done for Bill and Ted Day, but obviously there's a lot more going into the video than we anticipated.
It's coming
so
out amazing though.
it's coming out really cool. I'm really excited
Yeah.
to share it. But that'll be coming out really soon. But hopefully by the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey 30th anniversary
Yikes.
next month. But yeah, so that it was so inspiring to me to see that in this episode of SpongeBob, and sort of clicked in my brain like, oh, that's probably why I like making stuff like that, or that has like mixed media. Like you wouldn't necessarily do that, but it looks really cool. That like that lava lamp
Nickelodeon was
background
really
and the animation
kind
in
of
front.
A lot came from Nickelodeon even prior to that. I remember watching Kablam, and then
Oh, dude, Kablam! Yeah,
Life with Lucy was really
yeah.
was one of those, and then
I've been able to actually finally binge watch
I'm
that.
so happy
through
it's on,
Paramount
I'm
Plus,
so happy
and
that they
has
put it on
been
there.
Excellent.
I cried when I saw it was on there. My brother and I ran circles around the
I remember Brandon texted me immediately, that morning. He was like, "Kablam is on Paramount Plus," and I was like, "Oh my god!" I still haven't watched a lot of it because the first thing I watched on Paramount Plus all the way through, of course, was Ned's Declassified.
Yeah, that was the first. I've been binging that, and then TMNT.
Yeah.
And of course, Kablam.
Yeah. For me, Ned's was I had to get through Ned's, and we still got to do an episode on our pod.
Yeah. My cat died halfway through the last one.
Yeah. We gotta get back on it.
Probably the best live action show I think Nickelodeon has ever had.
Yes.
Indubitably.
And there was Devin Werkheiser, Ned himself, made a TikTok where you guys can tell how much I've been watching TikTok.
Bring back Ned.
So basically he said that he was like, I wanted to bring back Ned and make it like life advice. So imagine it's Ned, Mose, and Cookie. Everybody's on board, to make the show.
Coming back to the loop with iCarly.
And it's them coming out of college. So it's like life advice. It's like Ned's Declassified life advice. And they pitched it, and the creators were back on it, I'm sure all the directors would have come back, which would have been great.
Ned's Declassified life
advice. Nickelodeon passed on it. And since they own the rights, they basically can't do anything with it anymore.
Well, that's why they did the wrong thing. Now they have to go to Paramount and pitch it.
That's what. Yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
Paramount owns the rights.
All the comments were like, go to Paramount Plus. Go to Paramount Plus.
I think with iCarly's success, we may have a chance at this.
I think we might.
Dude, they could make live action shows. They could go and do the Fuller House thing. I'm game for all of that with Drake and Josh. Have Josh do the thing where he needs Uncle Drake to come move back in the house.
Yeah.
It's just like Full House with Uncle Jesse. He was the cool guy who came and moved back in.
Yeah.
You could do Kenan and Kel.
Oh,
Clarissa Explains It.
Oh, dude, Clarissa Explains It All.
Oh my god,
man.
Childhood crush.
You could do something like that.
I would love, instead of Kenan and Kel, what would be cool? A Good Burger show.
Yes.
And and now Kenan is
own.
he's like the main branch manager of the Good Burger. And that would be man.
Bring on the nostalgia.
There have been rumors of a second Good Burger for a while. Man, sure, Paramount Plus.
It's the shake on the chair when SpongeBob and Patrick are excited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, the comeback Amando Burger, organic Amando Burger.
Oh man! Oh yeah, they have
now
they
more
do
than ever.
They do veggie patties. Oh, that would be
It's
interesting.
the same exact movie, but everyone's older.
It's for the nostalgia.
That would be great. Yeah. Well, I mean, Space Jam 2.
Hey.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of points to be proven here.
Did you notice that in the newest trailer, Space Jam 2, he says to Don Cheadle. Oh, okay. He says to Don Cheadle, what did you do to my son? And that is almost exactly a quote from Troll 2.
I mean, I'm sure if you went through the last, 5 years of movies, you could find a bunch of movies quoting Troll 2 unexpectedly.
Oh my God, that would be the greatest YouTube compilation of all time. I would be so happy. Well, today my mom.
There's an idea for you.
Today I was having lunch with my mom, and she said something about hospitality, and she works at a school, so I shouldn't have said this out loud, but we were in her office, so no one was there. But she said, well, that's hospitality. And I go, and you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it.
I'm tightening my belt by one loop.
Yeah, and then Mia, my sister, she immediately jumped in. She's like, what are you going to do to me, Dad? And I was like, I'm tightening my belt by one loop so I don't feel hunger pains. And my mom looked at us and she was like, what are you talking about? What are you... And I was like, Troll 2, Mom, come on. Troll 2.
It's a classic.
It's so good.
So back to Shanghaied for a second.
Yes,
After Squidward spends his 7 minutes while he's in the Fly Despair, the act of Shanghaiing somebody, to be Shanghaied, is to be violently taken or forced to be a part of a crew, which is exactly what happens in this episode. According to the Dutchman, you step on his ship. You are now a part of his crew. He could be making those rules up, by the way. We don't see that book
I like.
whatsoever.
It's like the rules in Fairly Odd Parents. They can put whatever they want in that book.
Oh, legitimately, it's infinite rules.
I like the idea that maybe the title is also like flipped onto the Dutchman. Like he has been violently brought onto the crew of SpongeBob and Patrick's idiocy.
Yeah.
Like he.
I mean, that's pretty
really
much
got
what
Shanghaied
happens.
here.
Yeah, I love the gag of
You're
them
good.
jumping off
You're
the
good.
ship.
You're good. You're good. Don't worry, Captain. We can buff out those scratches.
I gotta tell you, so
favorite
that
quote.
Brandon and I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Seaford. He was our like broadcasting like video. We had like a news program at our high school, and that's where we met each other, and we made videos together all the time, and we would quote that line all the time, like almost every day, like because we were moving things, we were like, it's like, oh, is the shot good? Is the like, are we getting a good shot here? You're good. You're good. Like, all the time. And then Brandon was saying, what did you notice about in this episode?
No, the most Seaford moment for me was when when the little kid tells the Flying Dutchman, "Those guys are dorks." And yeah, but they're my dorks.
You're like, that's
The acceptance.
That is exactly what our teacher would have said. Like, yes, but they're my dorks.
Just what an earnest moment where the Dutchman is just
So
talking
exasperated.
with this child over SpongeBob and Patrick.
I love the design of that little kid too. He's just like so perfectly like cute, like a cherub like little kid, like walking down, like his little arms are like
3
flopping
biscuits and
around.
ate one.
and even by seeing the Flying Dutchman, he was not scared whatsoever.
Oh yeah, he's
I like how Larry got more scared, and then SpongeBob and Patrick try to go through the wall. They look up to the Flying Dutchman so much that they want to be just like him, and they fail at every corner. And the Dutchman just like face palms at every attempt.
It's so funny.
The fact that eventually they are literally shaking in their terrible bunk beds.
They're so excited.
Over, like the excitement.
What does Patrick say it might be? Because SpongeBob says maybe it's a movie pass, or what does Patrick say? He says it's a. He's like, or maybe we get something else, and it like
I forget.
both of
Yeah, I
those
forget what he
being
said.
like your like what you get for working for the Flying Dutchman is like so pathetic, but it's hilarious that's exactly
that's what they're looking
Yeah, they're
forward
like
to.
he's like all excited about it. It's so stupid.
I do love the touch that they have their ice skates hung up in their
After the
quarters
spin.
Yeah.
after their little bit,
It is.
which is just it's beautiful. It's just a
rapid
beautiful
fire.
moment.
And of course, an oft-quoted thing amongst SpongeBob watching millennials and older Gen Zers is "Ow, yeah, lee."
Dude, it's just knocking out memes and classic
Oh
moments
yeah,
left and
just
right.
this. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. And of course, the one that my sister and I would just lose it at is, of course, the perfume department.
Oh yeah, my brother. Yeah, Max loves that. Bit too, my brother.
When they pull the mask off Patrick,
Yeah.
it's just the funniest.
man.
It's so
SpongeBob's like
And-
crumpled up face when Patrick's like carrying him through. It's like his tongue sticking out.
Apparently, that was filmed at a Macy's. Macy's West was given a special thanks in
That
the
is
credits.
wow.
And I guess they also were a part of the Amanda Show during one shoot.
That's so funny.
It's incredible to me how bizarre of a joke that is, and it totally works. It's like I'm questioning it, but not at all.
As a child,
As a kid,
I was just
I
like,
didn't
oh,
even- I was like, oh, okay, yeah, of course they have to go through the perfume department. And like the older I get, the more I'm like, what? What?
just naturally rode along with it as a kid.
Why does he
like,
have that in
so
his
funny,
ship?
yeah.
Oh man, watching the second season of SpongeBob is literally watching the first season that Mark McGuire did steroids and was just at the bat knocking him out of the park like every single time.
It's nonstop.
It's crazy. When is Band Geeks before or after Shanghaied?
Band Geeks is after,
Yes, it's
and
after.
I don't want to say anything, but I'm trying not to just release a normal episode for that.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
man.
That's
a
if
special
we
one.
could have been on the Band Geeks one, I would have lost my mind because that It's like literally, and I don't know if I was the only person who did this, but because as a kid, I like latched onto certain episodes of like TV shows and stuff. So I would just be like desperately waiting for them to replay certain episodes.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime SpongeBob was on, I would like hit info because I had like the Dish Network thing where you could look at what episodes were coming up next.
Oh man, that was such a great feeling.
And I would like hit info on all the next episodes as far as it would allow me to look, because sometimes it would only go like the next 4 shows. And I would hit info on all of them, like desperately, like crossing my fingers, like hoping and pleading with the television, like please, just play Band Geeks again. Because, again, at that time we weren't living with streaming or even YouTube.
And it's weird that we were so familiar with these episodes. It is because, I guess, of this, we looked forward to them so specifically that we really latched on to them forever.
I remember Band Geeks was a huge one just because that ending. I mean, like, it's so funny leading up to that ending, and then finally you have this incredible ending.
Even if you hate, like, even if I found someone who hated that episode, like, the fact is that the Band Geeks is the most universally beloved episode of SpongeBob.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most, everybody knows it by now.
Yeah. And it...
that could be a movie on its own.
Oh my God, yeah. It's, I think, one of the strengths, not to talk about Band Geeks, because we were talking about Shanghai, but I think one of the biggest strengths is having the focus be on Squidward. It's like a Squidward's POV episode.
Yeah.
And like seeing how he interprets all these characters, from
a certain point of view.
And I like too, like, the economy of storytelling in SpongeBob is so well done. Like, in Shanghaied, for instance, it's like, okay, well, we want to do an episode where they get on the Flying Dutchman ship. So what's going to happen? Well, the anchor falls onto SpongeBob's house, and then Squidward tries to prove a point, so they climb up the anchor, and now they're just trapped on the ship. Like, like, it's just really fast. And then in Band Geeks, too, it's like, okay, Squidward, he needs to come up with a band for the Bubble Bowl, and then he has to write this letter that's going to get every character in SpongeBob to be like, oh, I want to be a part of that. Like, from Larry the Lobster to Plankton.
Everybody's in it.
It has to inspire all of them in this, like, 2-minute, in like a 1-minute scene. Like, they have to do that, and it works perfectly. Like, I buy it completely. I'm like, of course, all these people.
So, spoiler for the upcoming episode, but there's a reason why it is a perfect SpongeBob episode.
Definitely.
Every character gets their moment to shine. Every joke lands. Every joke is hilarious, and you get to see Squidward win in the end in one of the best endings of an episode ever. Like, you get that moment. Like, as a fan, you might not have wanted Squidward to win, but here you are. William's losing, and Squidward's on top. Like.
Yeah, it's incredible, and you're right. Like, every single joke in that episode just like hits. Like, it is like out of the park. An incredible joke. I love that the conclusion, like the way that the problem gets solved, is that SpongeBob just says, "Let's pretend that we like Squidward."
All right, everybody, let's just try now. Let's actually try.
Larry, when your heart gave out from all those tanning pills, who revived you? Some guy in an ambulance. Right. Like, what?
It's like instillant motivation. Like, yeah, he's right.
Yeah, for the firemen.
As a kid, that's what like made me.
It was all for the firemen at the Bubble
all
Bowl.
for the firemen. It's just
this is what we got to do to motivate people.
As a kid, you're like, yeah, let's do it.
So, speaking of conclusions, though, this episode does have a unique conclusion because all 3 possible endings exist.
Yes.
And from the digging that I was able to do, the ending that was chosen was legitimately the one that was picked. There was no tomfoolery. It wasn't like
a
the
fake
SpongeBob
thing.
one. Yeah, they were. Nickelodeon was legitimately going to air the ending alongside with whatever the one that won.
Dang.
Like, they would go to commercial, they would announce the winner, and then it would just air whatever the winning one was.
Rewatching
SpongeBob was the most popular episode, or most popular pick.
Rewatching them, I had like nostalgic flashbacks to actually watching it live. I remember like the skull cross out on Squidward and Patrick.
Yeah.
I remember stupid Patrick's flashback ending. I was like, oh crap, it's all coming back to me. And I remember the endings in between commercials.
It didn't really hit me until, Eric, you mentioned earlier that the whole campaign was called You Wish.
Yeah.
And that, like, just you saying that right now, I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, it just came back to me in like this wave of nostalgia.
That was a very common
Nickelodeon
theme.
has a weird way. They've done this for years where they would take a movie or a special episode of a show and they would promote it, but with a different name.
Yeah.
A good example is this. It's called You Wish, but the show is called Shanghaied. SpongeBob's House Party is actually called like Party Pooper. Things like that. Like they did it for other shows too, like Danny Phantom specials, or sometimes for other
such a huge
shows. They would
thing.
just the promotion was just somewhat different.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
why.
know it was one of the things on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, I think, at one point when they voted on Johnny Bravo to become the next series.
Oh yeah.
After showing clips of X series on Space Ghost,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe.
Yeah, it is a weird way that they do
generational
those kinds of
gap.
things, because you don't see that on like they're not about to do a Law and Order episode where they're like
Yeah.
vote on how who you want the murderer to be. Like
It's such a strange thing of the past.
yeah,
It's one of those relics that was left behind.
Funny enough, and again, not to like harp on this Psych thing, but the 100th episode of Psych is an homage to Clue, and that they did like a tweet or like a text based thing where you could vote on which guest star was the murderer, and they were all, and most all the guest stars were people from Clue. So that's like a really fun episode, because then it was like, oh, who's the real murderer? And then on the DVD of that episode, they do the same thing that the Clue home video release does.
They show you all
where
the
they show you
endings.
all the endings, and then they say, but here's how it really happened. And it is such a fun episode. And to have, I was like, it was so cool, like because it was the 100th episode, and it's a Clue homage, and it has Christopher Lloyd in it, and Leslie Ann Warren, and it's just like, it's a cool, I was like, wow, this is like really awesome. So that's like the only other that's the only example I can think of like a more adult leaning program on like an adult leaning television channel doing like the voting thing.
It's like every generation's had its thing.
They should do it more often.
Yeah.
And there's even modern ways that
super
you can still
entertaining.
do it. I mean, if Cartoon Network just threw 5 pilots onto their YouTube channel and then we're just like promoting it like, hey, let us know what you think about these, like and dislike, your views matter, and at the end of the week we'll have a community vote.
You would
pick
think there'd be
pick
a
a
lot
show.
more too, since social media is so widespread.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
watching a Billy and Mandy panel with Greg Delisle, Greg Eagles, and Richard Horvitz, and they were talking about how Billy and Mandy was a show that was like voted
That
on.
was another one.
Yeah, but it was like the it was the
I was
pairing
a
of
part of that group that voted.
Evil Con Carne and Billy and Mandy,
Yeah.
and then Evil Con Carne was like nobody liked it, so then they were just like, okay, we'll just do
Yeah.
Billy and Mandy.
I remember.
Well, that was a sneaky way, like Maxwell Adams. This guy just had another idea he wanted
yeah.
to throw in there.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
kudos
the
to him.
sleeve. I think going back to the Killing Joke, even in the 80s when Robin gets killed, that was one of the things that people could mail in and vote.
Oh yeah, Jason
Oh
Todd.
my
You could
God.
vote
Yeah.
if he was gonna.
If he was
Yeah,
gonna
and
die
people
or
like
not.
overwhelmingly voted for him to be killed.
He was a
by the
weenie.
Joker.
Dang.
Death in the Family.
Yeah. Death, not Killing
That
Joke.
is
Yeah,
crazy.
Death in the Family. Yeah.
I hardly remember this for this episode of SpongeBob, but it like these little nuggets of memories are
Yeah.
in my brain.
I originally thought there were promotions for this episode outside of Nickelodeon for the You Wish special. I pulled up, they did a Got Milk ad, which is actually really adorable, of SpongeBob and Patrick both drinking chocolate milk. It's like a little cartoon strip
Aw.
you'd see in a magazine, and it's both of them having chocolate milk mustaches, but then SpongeBob's disappears because he's a sponge. And the wording says, milk mustaches don't last long when you're a sponge, which means I may have to drink another glass of yummy chocolate milk, or 2 or 3 or 4. And at the bottom it says SpongeBob SquarePants You Wish. Like, it was all promotion for this special. As mentioned, ultimately SpongeBob's ending won. But I don't know if you guys got a chance to rewatch the other 2
Oh, yeah.
endings.
oh yeah,
But actually, we should start. The Flying Dutchman gives the boys 3 wishes, and Patrick immediately wishes that he knew about this earlier, and we get a funny gag of the time going back like 5 minutes, and there you go. Wish number
I also
1.
love the immediate Patrick, like with the most confidence in the world, just like make it 5, 4, 3. It's like, what are you doing, Patrick?
Classic Patrick.
It's so good.
Classic
It's so
Patrick.
good.
SpongeBob then wishes for Squidward to be back, but like It's a good wish, even though we end up
Poor
finding out that it
Squidward.
was not needed whatsoever.
Poor Squidward.
It's so good. And I love because they hardly do. I noticed it. That's something that in the animation on SpongeBob, they never do little gags like the way that Squidward gets teleported, where it's literally just like a cut with like little lines going like bloop. They hardly do stuff like that. So it's like even funnier to me, just as a fan of like animation. Like just it's this weird. It's they don't do stuff like that on the show. So just
Very
doing
out
that
of
is like
context. Yeah,
really funny to
out of
me. Just like
page, yeah.
the little bloop, and he's there. Like what?
Poor Squidward.
No, it's incredible when they can just kind of get out of their comfort zone of writing. Like, hey, have fun, do what you want.
Oh yeah, totally.
So we get to the third wish, which now that all three are back on the ship, Squidward rightfully says that he should get the wish.
Oh,
I
yeah.
actually agree
Oh,
with
yeah.
that.
He totally should. I mean, because then also he would probably have just wished, I wish we were all back home. But of course that's not what he wished
then he
in
doesn't.
in his
Yeah.
alternate version. So whatever. That ending was so frustrating. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
That one was a bit frustrating. That one is probably the funniest one too.
Oh yeah, that one did crack me up though. Yeah.
So we might as well say Squidward wishes that he had never met SpongeBob and Patrick. It's a slip of the tongue. I don't like. He just doesn't want to know them, and they still get eaten by the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
but now Squidward doesn't know SpongeBob and Patrick, or they don't know who he is.
And I think like it's almost like in his mind, he's like, if I never met them, this wouldn't have
won't be here.
happened.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be
first
here.
time, yeah.
But the Flying Dutchman's like, okay, well now they just don't know. Who
My
you
brother
are.
explained it really well. He's just like, there's always a catch with like the genie's wish, you know.
Oh yeah,
Like,
it's the classic like monkey's paw.
Yeah.
Like
Have you guys ever played Twisted Metal?
Oh yeah.
no.
Hell yeah. Classic PS1.
Yeah, the whole point of the game, like each character wants to win this tournament because the guy throwing it, Calypso,
Right.
promises you like one wish of anything you want in the world. And the joke is that no matter what you wish for, it's going to somehow be turned on your head. It's like Black Mirror.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
which is what happens in all of these situations.
oh yeah, it's always either really horrible or really really funny. It's just
Yeah.
like
Right.
the way that it can get twisted.
Stupid Patrick's.
And Patrick's
Patrick
stupid wish.
wishes that he had gum that would never lose its flavor, which is a great wish. It's a good idea, but the Flying Dutchman then eats him.
Yeah, and I think the funniest thing, that one is the most visually hilarious.
His face.
Brandon and I were talking about how the way Patrick's face gets contorted when he's like, you have to think harder than you've ever thought before, Patrick, and he's like,
His face turns into a whole like muscle unit of its own.
yeah, like the veins
Yeah,
on
it
his
sticks
head,
out of, like sticks out of his star head.
And-
His eyeballs.
and it reminded me of like Pat Back. Do you
Yeah.
remember in Survival of the
Oh,
Idiots
God.
when he's like,
Pat Back.
Yes.
"Hi, I'm Pat Back."
That is just a weird somebody at like 2:30, 3 in the morning at Nickelodeon just like banging their head on the wall. Just, okay, what if Patrick just contorted his back fat to a face?
Yeah, it reminds
I
me
quote that a lot,
again.
too.
Brandon and I have been very
Yeah.
much in Bill and Ted mode because of the video we were working on, and are still working on. But one of my favorite stories is there's a character in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the second one, called Station. And the only reason that character exists,
Oh, absolutely.
the only reason that character exists is because the writers were up at like 3 a.m. and they were writing a new draft and they had deleted a whole scene at the police station and the only word that was left on the script was station. And so that night they're just sitting there and they just keep going station, station, and they were like, whatever happens, station's got to get in the script, and we don't even know what it is, but we're gonna put it in. And then it's like this critical thing in the movie.
Ends up being like a major plot
which
point.
is so like hilarious and weird, and it's like
Yeah.
that.
It's like the weird jumping the shark moment for Bill and Ted. Like, because I find it great up to that point.
No,
And it's always like,
it is perfect
I love
beyond that
Station,
point.
but at the same time, I'm like, oh man.
Not to
We got
turn
Muppet
this,
aliens.
Not to turn this into a Bill and Ted podcast, but the thing I think is missing from the climax of the second movie is the chase scene that got deleted, where the nightmares from hell are in a car chase. So while Station is building the good robot Us's in the back of the van, the nightmares are in another car chasing Bill and Ted and Death and
insane.
Station. and the good robot us's, to the.
It's like the ultimate friend moment.
That
too.
would have been so freaking cool. And then they have like a confrontation in the parking lot outside of the Battle of the Bands. Like that would have been the coolest scene in the world.
Yeah.
Again.
Oh, absolutely. Massive Bill and Ted fan.
Oh yeah, incredible.
Excellent.
Always love those stuff. But we finally get to SpongeBob's joke here. His wish.
Yes.
Which is that instead of just wishing them home and gone and away from the Flying Dutchman, he just wishes for the Flying Dutchman to be a vegetarian. But the Flying Dutchman has ultimate control here, and he turns the characters into fruit that he is putting into a blender so that he can make a fruit smoothie.
Very Twilight
and
Zone.
I guess apparently if you have to be a vegetarian, you also have to be a hippie.
Yeah.
It's like it was this weird because media at that time was very like mean to vegetarians.
Yeah.
Or it was like if you're a vegetarian, yeah, you're right. It was this like hippy dippy kind of like
That's what you are.
cool man, yeah, Mother Earth,
Yeah, just because you don't want to eat a steak, you're somehow like
it's
a lesser person, or
or
you're gross
like
or
this,
something.
Outside of normal society.
you're like this super laid back, like living on a living out of a van in the woods, like
Now, let's be fair here. Hippies do exist.
No,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
caricature of the Flying Dutchman, there is probably a dude out there with that van.
My sister used to
with
look
a
like
sail
that.
on the top, chilling out in a basketball jersey and whatnot, making smoothies.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it's like it's interesting that's, and I think that's a pretty clever wish on SpongeBob's part, like and this is a good example of one of those times where like a lot of people say that part of the reason that the later episodes of SpongeBob don't work as well is because he goes from being like naive to being like a complete idiot. Like he's just not intelligent at all in some of those later episodes.
Yeah.
And this is one of those moments where it's like he's not. Like, this is a really clever idea.
Very clever,
like,
very
the
witty.
Dutchman won't be able to eat us because he's going to be I wish he was vegetarian, so he can't eat us. Which it could have worked if the Dutchman was fair, but he's obviously not. He's not going to play
He's
fair.
not going to be fair
Yeah.
at all. One note about one of the Patchy segments here. I love that Patchy, when he mentions that the winning wish is going to be the he says that if the viewer watches this episode Landlubben style as a rerun, basically, that Nickelodeon is only going to play the voted ending. But I love that he referred to reruns as Landlubben style. I don't get it, but at the same time, I totally understand.
I was just thinking about this because I was like, not that I want them to remake Back to the Future, but in a remake of Back to the Future, in Back to the Future, you have that moment where Marty's like, "Oh, I love this episode, yeah." And he's like, "Well, this is brand new. How have you seen it?" And he's like, "Well, I saw it on a rerun." And he's like, "What's a rerun?" I'm like, there are so many analogous things nowadays that you could do. Like 30 years ago from now, there are so many things you could do that are like, because a lot of kids today are like, what are commercials?
Oh, yeah.
Because all they do is watch like Netflix.
It's weird.
And
They call them ads instead instead of commercial.
Yeah, and
Skip ahead. Yeah.
and they don't know about like they live in a time where you can pause, rewind, whatever, like you can pause live TV.
Somebody turn it off and put something else on.
Yeah, and so it's like
no investment,
and
real
it's like
investment.
30 years ago. Some of my favorite memories are events like this of the SpongeBob Shanghaied episode, where like they would hype up this episode, and then it's like one of my favorite Tumblr posts puts it pretty eloquently, where it's like there's nothing better than the thrill of like you were getting a snack in the kitchen and you hear your sibling go, "It's back on!" and you have to like jump over couches, like with food in your hand to get back in a place to watch the show, so it's because otherwise you missed it, and then you had to catch the rerun, the next day or 2 days later or next week or whatever. And like that,
Never the same.
yeah, and it like that is such a, it's such like a weirdly fond memory, even though it was inconvenient.
I hate the complaint that people have these days that all of the streaming services are equaling the amount they were paying for cable, and it's like, but you can watch anything you want at any time and all of it.
Yeah, it's
so you're saying it's the same price but cooler?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's like, because it's like, man, do I want to pay for cable and I have to, wait a week to watch the next episode of West Wing? Or do I want to pay for streaming HBO Max and I can watch all 7 seasons in like one weekend?
That's why if you look at a lot of channels now these days, unless they have programming that like daytime game shows and talk shows and whatnot, but they'll have just marathons of shows because people like.
Oh yeah.
That's why SpongeBob is all over Nickelodeon. They knew that people binged SpongeBob and it was high numbers for them.
Yeah. Did you ever see on Twitter a few months back the MTV schedule was trending because it was basically all ridiculousness. The Rob Dyrdek, internet clip show. Yeah. Like it was just all ridiculousness like for basically 24 hours with like 30 minutes of a different show or like an hour of a different show and then ridiculousness on like every
that's not shocking
on like every MTV channel, MTV, MTV2, like it was just all ridiculousness and it started trending because everybody was like, what, this is ridiculous, no pun intended. Like like it was just insane. And SpongeBob is the same thing. Like you look at the schedule for Nickelodeon and sometimes it's just like, who would be watching, like why, but then we binge watch everything, so like why is that ridiculous?
It's just the way the culture is right now.
Yeah.
I really wish that they would, if anyone from Paramount Plus is ever listening, just put this all back up, all completely unedited, everything, the whole special. It's on a streaming service. Who cares?
Yeah, truly. Or like one of the things I wish Disney Plus has been trying to do it, but I feel like they just haven't done enough with it. Is like I miss DVD bonus features.
Yeah.
And Disney Plus has kind of done that. You can listen to some of the commentaries on the Marvel movies, and they have like some good behind the scenes stuff and deleted scenes from the Marvel movies.
Director's cuts.
But those are the only things. Those are like only the Marvel movies are the ones I've seen them do that with.
Yeah.
I
know HBO Max has some stuff on some shows and movies as well, where they have like the extended cuts of movies or so.
Well, and I still think there's a market for that. We're recording this at our friend's place right now, and he built his own home theater. And
people like that stuff.
He's told me directly, and because I say it all the time, like nothing's gonna replace physical media. Like streaming just can't do it, and it just can't. And he's like, you're right, because he'll put on a Blu-ray in his home theater, and he has it also set up to his computer, so he can watch he watches. He said he just watched Soul the other day through Disney Plus, and he's like, and it just the difference is clear, like the quality difference is there. It's specifically in a home theater setting. I'm sure that when you're watching it on your regular TV or whatever, it's not, you're hardly going to notice it, especially if you have pretty good internet. But like there's just something about a good like
it's very different
physical media.
It's a world of a difference.
Yeah. And again, it's like I remember, I'm sure we talked about this last time, but I remember like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, that DVD set, 2-disc set, huge backlog of bonus features, like just tons of stuff, tons of behind the scenes things, all these different things. And then now like DVDs are like, it's the movie and scene selection and maybe there's a commentary.
They're sort of a relic.
Well, I really wish that there would be some streaming service to come along that has these movies. Like Paramount Plus could do it. Look at the amount of movies they have under their repertoire. Add the special features onto them. Make it more of a curation process. Bring in people that just work on the UI and make it as cool as possible and make your streaming service the best it can possibly be in terms of content.
Yeah.
They have enough money for it.
They do. I've seen so many mistakes that I'm like, can Disney or Netflix or Hulu, somebody just pay me and I will just...
I could fix that.
I have OCD with that stuff. I'll fix all your titles.
One of the things that blows my mind is like Phineas and Ferb, when they first put it on Disney Plus, it was out of order. And it wasn't even in like...
A lot of shows have been like that.
Yeah, they have a lot of movies listed under Disney because it's like Disney's The Incredibles and they will list that under Disney. Disney should be like
Yeah.
Don't put anything under that.
Yeah.
Yeah, their arrangement of things are pretty sloppy.
Yeah, and the weird thing about the Phineas and Ferb thing, and I think it was also with Gravity Falls, the order of the episodes on Disney Plus wasn't even like the release order or like the production order, which I would have understood. I would have been like, oh, this was the production order, so obviously it's going to be, out of, like, it's not going to be the way it was released. That's the mistake they made. It was just random. It was just like random episodes were the first episode of Phineas and Ferb is, iconic. It's they build a roller coaster in their backyard. That was like, it was listed as like episode 12. I was like, why?
Oh, goodness.
And then I looked up the production order, and that episode was like nowhere near episode 12. I was like, what happened here? Why did that happen? And even Dan Povenmire, the co-creator, was like, yeah, I don't know. And I told them to fix it, so they fixed it. Like, it's in order now. But that was just such a strange thing. And this is one of the things that always bugged me as a kid. Like, you couldn't get a DVD of, like, all of Kim Possible. Mm-hmm. You had to get, like, a DVD collection of, like, here's the spooky episodes, or here's, like, the, you know, where they wear costumes. So all the episodes are about when they wear costumes. And, like, you couldn't get, like, a full season. You know, or you couldn't get like a, you know.
Or how about this? How about the fact that Doug's first movie was only released on VHS and was never released on DVD, and when it was through the Disney Movie Club, it was just the edited TV version in which you actually cut to commercial, like the screen cuts to black, comes back up, and there's the movie, and it's in full screen instead of widescreen. I believe like the original. Yeah, and as far as I know, even the Disney Plus version, I don't know if it might have the fixed aspect ratio, but I don't know.
That is so
it's just never been like properly
I want to look into that. I want to watch it on Disney Plus now.
Yeah, I think it might have the 4:3 aspect ratio accidentally, but it still has the full credits intact, and there's no cuts. I don't know.
I remember that. I mean, it's insane to me that they made that mistake with The Simpsons at launch, with the aspect ratio. Where they played Simpsons in that.
It's because it's made by people who make decisions who don't think about the normal cinephiles people out there, the purists, the people. You know, they don't think about that, but then they rectified it.
Yeah, and what was weird was that FX did the exact same thing. They had the exact same issue on their Simpsons based streaming website, and everyone complained, and they fixed it. I'm like, how did you inherit this? And
because the people who make decisions like that, they don't think about them. They just don't.
And
as long as they're receptive to the change.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I find interesting, and it always bothers me when people complain about like Disney and stuff on like Twitter or whatever. I mean, I hate the way people complain about stuff on Twitter because it's always so like this like black and white, like only this is the right way, and if you like this, you're stupid or whatever. But I always hate how people, when they complain about Disney, they're like, oh, I hate how Disney did this. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, who is Disney? Like, there's no one. It's like department, like it's still departments of people, like it's not like
you're still doing your job.
Yeah, and it's
if you worked at Lucasfilm right when you were purchased by Disney, you didn't like the guy, Kathleen Kennedy had one boss. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like Bob Iger was like going down to the Disney Channel studio and was like, I want Phineas and Ferb to have, get rid of that joke in Phineas and Ferb. It's like there are whole departments of people. So, and that's not to say that we shouldn't, get mad when things are bad with the company or whatever. I'm just like, I always hate when people do this like blanket, oh, Disney ruined
Mickey
Marvel,
Mouse.
Disney ruined Star Wars or whatever. And it's like, it's much more complicated than that. Like you have no idea. Yeah. It's that like, but I mean, this is. So Disney Plus has been an interesting ride because obviously the people in charge of Disney Plus have had a ton of missteps from the Simpsons aspect ratio to the Lizzie McGuire thing. Like, it's the only thing that I feel has been super successful is the Marvel stuff, like the Marvel shows. And
of course,
I mean that first episode of Loki was like killer. I was like, oh my god, this is so good. I think I'm a little bit frustrated with the implementation of like the movies premiering on the service.
It's a weird time, and everybody's trying a different thing. Like I get it. What else do you want? Just go and see it in the theater, pay your $20. I don't know.
I really hope that they get away from it a little bit though, especially because like I know the stuff that I heard was that a lot of the Pixar artists who worked on Soul and on the new Luca were really bummed out. That they're working at one of the biggest animation studios in the world, and their movie that they designed for movie theaters is now just relegated to somebody's cell phone, right? Like, and it's like really bummer. I feel for that.
I get it, but whatever movies were going to be released during this weird time, we're going to have to suffer that fate. So
a little bit.
People
at
are
least.
seeing your art.
Yeah. I think one of the things that, was possibly a missed opportunity was just like 2021 or like, whatever. Once we got out of it, it would have been like, here's just a bunch of movies. Here's just a buttload of movies. Here's like every movie you could have imagined. Like,
all at once.
just like we would have had like 2 years of just like every weekend you needed to be at the movie theater. Like you,
It's been pretty good so far.
but
so.
I think despite that fact, I'm really sad I didn't get to see Soul on the big screen.
Yeah.
I'm really sad that I'm not going to get to see Luca on the big screen.
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier.
And I think Soul would have been just incredible in the movie theater. I really hope.
Absolutely.
I really hope Disney. They had a pretty like iron fist on not playing their classic movies in movie theaters. Or at least like if you were going to do that, if a movie theater didn't want to do that, the price would be super high. I really hope that they get away from that because, you have all these movies. Some of them, they were direct to streaming, or some of them did like both in theater and in streaming, and people didn't necessarily get to go out to see them.
When
and,
theaters first opened up around us near September, they were showing just classics like Jurassic Park and Back to the Future for $5. We went to the movie theaters a ton of times during there.
Oh yeah,
just to see the classics.
And we I don't know if we talked about this last time, but Brandon and I work for the Texas-based movie theater chain Alamo Drafthouse, and their part of their whole shtick is like doing movie parties.
Yeah.
And like they play a classic movie, you get props, you can quote along with the lines. If it's a musical, you can sing along. You get in Beetlejuice when they do the Deo sequence, everybody gets up and does a conga line around the theater. Like that is so much fun. And Brandon and I have like a billion ideas. We're like Toy Story movie party, Star Wars movie party.
Yeah.
Like we are ready with like all these Disney movies and some of the biggest movie parties Disney now owns. Like The Princess Bride. That was a huge. We would do Princess Bride movie parties like all summer long, and. So I'm like just crossing my fingers and hoping that like Disney, and
hey, enough money and peer pressure.
Yeah, I mean,
come on, they're a business. They want the money.
Hopefully, they would make bank. They would make bank. You imagine you play, Toy Story, you play you Beauty and the Beast. I mean, come on. Like,
speaking of movies, though, guys, with the SpongeBob SquarePants movie Rehydrated coming out this year, how are you guys doing on that? How's everything going?
Please don't ask.
No, there's still time. No pressure. We don't need to say anything. But are you still excited? Is the energy still there?
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
I think so.
The biggest issue is that, as with every single project that Brandon and I do, we are just way more ambitious than we think we're being. Like we think we're being like reasonably ambitious.
We always jump for the deep end.
And then like it's like we jump in the pool thinking we're in like the in like the 5 feet area, and we're actually in like the 10 feet area. We're like, oh wait a minute,
we can still swim, but
it's like we just got to find our footing a little bit. But we're coming down to the wire,
it's a lot of fun.
and it's
looking really good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
Just the way that I decided to do this animation was, again, very ambitious.
Yeah.
Basically doing hand-drawn animation and then turning it into stop motion.
Very unique, though.
Which is going to look super cool, but it is just taking forever.
It's a big learning
to
curve.
get all the frames ready to go, to print out and to cut out and then to photograph. And and then we have the live action sections, which will be a lot easier to shoot. We just haven't prepped that yet, but the shooting is going to take like super fast. It's just been this animation. I also recently got a new job, so it's been really hard to like sit down and focus in on it. And then of course I mentioned we were doing that other video project too, and we just have so much going on.
A lot of stuff on our plates right now.
So I've been telling myself like the last week, I'm like, okay, you know what? I just gotta sit down. I'm just gonna do SpongeBob. Like this is the only thing I'm doing is the SpongeBob Rehydrated, because it is looking super cool. The stuff that I have right now, and like I'm really proud of it. And I know it's gonna look super cool. And it's just gonna be a long couple weeks getting it done, but it is gonna be totally worth it. I'm really excited.
I'm here for it. I'm excited for the premiere. I'm excited to see what you guys have. Before we end today, is there any like lasting thoughts of Shanghaied, the SpongeBob movie? Anything you guys want to promote? Anything you guys want to quickly say here?
Well, I will say that before I do any shout outs, I just think Shanghaied is one of my favorites of all time. Like I said, Brandon and I quoted it in high school. It has so many classic moments, Leedle Lee, and the perfume department.
Brandon, what's your favorite quote?
From Shanghaied, definitely, you're good. You're good.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Don't worry, Captain. We'll buff out those scratches.
we just said that so much.
Many times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to Mr. Seifert.
Oh,
Like,
it's so damn funny. Yeah.
Don't worry, Captain. We'll buff out those
The
scratches.
cut back to the
Oh, it works
ship's
every
empty
time.
frame.
I mean, hey, if somebody scratched my car, as long as they said that afterwards, and I got a chuckle out of it, I'd probably
Yeah,
forgive them.
all the giant like pieces of wood flying past SpongeBob's
yeah,
face. Like,
Flying Dutchman's just like, ugh.
yeah, him leaning on the ship like he's resigned to it. It's so good, and I think it's just a perfectly crafted
Yeah.
SpongeBob episode because
yeah.
it's episodic. It obviously ends in a place where you can't like they're not going to serialize that. They're not going to come
It's
back.
all
from
in
that
11 minutes.
Yeah, and it has the perfect ingredients. You know, SpongeBob and Patrick are perfectly stupid and naive.
Yeah.
And eager to work with the Dutchman, even though they're trapped there. And you know, you have Squidward being the curmudgeon, who's like
Yeah.
sort of you got level-headed.
It's still the other.
Yeah,
point of
it's just it
guidance.
is a perfect recipe for a perfect episode.
Definitely
I
one of
think.
the favorites. It's in my top 5 without a doubt.
Yeah, but in terms of shout-outs and stuff, I want to shout out. I don't know if I mentioned it last time. My sister's podcast, the Q for You podcast. There's a SpongeBob anime that is very funny and crazy and weird on YouTube by the animator Narmak. And if you like that kind of thing, you'll enjoy that podcast and her YouTube channel, Mia Fran. But otherwise, you can catch me and Brandon at Truman Pictures on YouTube. And of course, we have our podcast, The Video Vault, which is on a little bit of a hiatus, but we're coming back, and we got to get you on. We got to get you on, Captain Eric.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I have me on anytime you'd like, and I would absolutely have you guys on again. There's certainly more episodes to come. We're chugging away towards season 3, so I'm sure I'll have you guys on soon enough.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
But thank you, Skylar, Brandon. Thank you guys. Like, appreciate it. Brandon, do you have anything you'd want to shout out, my friend?
No, I'm pretty much as one with Skylar.
What about our new? Tell them to look out for our new videos coming out soon.
Yeah, our new videos.
Yeah, there you go.
Short. We had a new short coming out soon.
Yeah.
And
we've got our Bill and Ted project that we're working on.
I think we could say what that series is gonna be called.
Cardboard music videos.
Yeah, it's gonna be called Cardboard Music Video.
So that keep an eye out on our stuff.
Absolutely, I'm all here
busy
for it.
Guys. It's good to be back to work though. I missed the film life.
Oh yeah, it was. I'll tell you what. When we filmed that video,
it was very
that we're talking about the Bill and Ted one,
rehydrating.
We shot for like an hour, and we just we were drenched in sweat. But at the end of it, we both were like, "This was so much fun to get back into filming and stuff." Like we hadn't filmed in a really long time.
Yeah.
Ah, hey, there we go. I love when creative people get to be creative. It's the best thing in the world. So, guys, keep on being creative. And legitimately, I cannot wait to see what you guys pull out for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Rehydrated.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you
It's
you
gonna
very
be a blast.
much.
It's awesome to be on
No
here
problem,
again.
guys. Thank you for coming on again, Skylar and Brandon.
Oh
of Truman
yeah.
Pictures.
Hell yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Captain Eric.
Thanks for having us.
Magic Conj, will I ever get to meet Tom Kenny?
Maybe someday.
Oh, so you're saying there's a chance. Okay. Should I tell fans of the show how they can support us?
Yes.
Goofy Goobers, supporting the show is shockingly easier than catching a blue jellyfish. Right from our anchor page, anchor.fm/SpongePod, you can find links to all of our social media and a support button if you happen to have a few extra clams. Also follow us on twitch.tv/SpongeBobPodcast, where it's not only the official home to our sister show, Video Bob Game Pants, it's also where I stream live drawings of various Nickelodeon characters and host the opportunity for commissions and giveaways. Lastly, the official merchandise store is now open at redbubble.com/people/SpongePod, where various designs will be uploaded inspired by our show, including our official logo, which is now available on a multitude of products like t-shirts, stickers, duvet covers, and even a shower curtain. This is a podcast by a fan, for fans, and will always be fan-driven. Any way you see fit on supporting our show is much appreciated. Thank you, and enjoy.